Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Other Voices, Other Rooms by Truman Capote. If you guys don't know, Other Voices, Other Rooms is Truman Capote's first novel that was published when he was 23 in 1948. It actually debuted on the New York Times bestselling list at number 9 and then remained on that list for 9 weeks. And this is an American Southern Gothic classic, which means that it follows this mystery, this mysterious group of people that are connected with this dilapidated plantation home. Specifically in this one, we're following a character named Joel Knox. At the beginning of the book, he's living with his aunt in New Orleans, but at the very beginning he receives a letter from his estranged father, who he's never met, summoning him to this plantation home in a small town in Mississippi called Scully's Landing. And when he gets to this small town, the townspeople don't really know the people that live at this house. They know of them more than they know them, and no one has actually ever met his father, and even the people at Scully's Landing don't talk about him. And then the story takes off from there. As usual with my book reviews, I'm going to go through my pros, go through my cons, give you my rating, and be done. My first pro for this book was that I really enjoyed reading about the different characters. They were all so interesting and different. First off, there is Amy, which is his stepmother. She is the only one that actually has the last name Scully, but she has this thing where she switches between being really uppity, really uptight and snooty almost, and kind of mean, and then she'll randomly start acting like a toddler and screaming and being crazy. So yeah, she was interesting. There's a character named Jesus Fever who picks him up from the town and takes him to Scully's Landing, and I just really liked him. He's always complaining about how cold it is because he's over 100 years old and he's just really, really old. His granddaughter was probably one of my favorite characters in this novel. Her name is Zoo. She has bigger dreams. She really wants to leave this plantation and go off and go to a big city and, you know, have a different life, basically. And I really liked reading about her and her interactions with Joel. She actually wears a scarf around her neck to cover a huge scar from when her husband tried to kill her. Then there's Cousin Randolph, who is a very effeminate man. Cousin Randolph is pretty insecure and he just really attaches himself to Joel, basically. And honestly, this might be like a little bit of a spoiler, but you will definitely know like straight away who this person is and what's going on. But Cousin Randolph does dress in drag, and that's like a huge mystery in this novel, which doesn't make any sense because it was pretty obvious. There's side characters that I was really enjoying, like Little Sunshine, who is this hermit that lives in the forest and he does like talismans and stuff. There's Idabelle Tompkins, who's actually based off of Truman Capote's friend, Harper Lee. They were friends when they were kids. And in To Kill a Mockingbird, the character of Dill Harris is modeled after Truman Capote. So they kind of like put each other in their books. And obviously you do meet Joel's father at some point, so Mr. Sampson is in here. And lastly, Joel Knox. I really enjoyed reading about him. I just think that the characters were really interesting, and when we were learning about each character, I was really engaged with the story. Joel is a very lonely, very insecure child. He also is very effeminate, and people call him out on this constantly throughout the novel. And one thing about Joel is that he is constantly lying all the time and he makes up stories and stuff, and I think that that's just stems from his insecurity. He's trying to lie, I guess, really to himself to protect himself and kind of avoiding reality. So he lies to other people and tries to tell bigger stories than what actually happened. He has this like, imaginary space in his mind that he calls the faraway room, and in there he houses, I guess, like all of these lies that he's told himself and all of these different people, and they're like imaginary friends basically, but he has a vision of his father that he's never met in that room that he's hoping to find. And basically Joel Knox is Truman Capote as a kid. This novel is actually described as semi-autobiographical, and this novel was basically Truman going through, and he described it as exorcise some demons. He said it was basically about seeking a father who essentially is non-existent because Truman didn't have a relationship with his father. And up until this point, Joel has never met his father, so he has this idea in his mind of what his father is gonna be like, and then he's trying to find that person that he's had in his mind as he's trying to go and meet his father for the first time. Truman also had an encounter with a snake during his childhood, and that's kind of in here as well. Truman like ended up having this weird obsession with snakes, and it actually like pops up throughout this novel a couple of times, he loved snakes. And when Truman came up with the idea for this novel, he was actually going for a walk in his hometown, which was a small town in Alabama. I think it was called Monroeville. And I thought it was interesting that his main character in this story, Joel Knox, doesn't have the same last name as his father, and Truman Capote ended up switching his name to Capote. I think that was his stepfather's name. His original last name was Persons, and then he switched it to Capote. Joel Knox is basically very much inspired by Truman Capote as a child, growing up being a bit more effeminate and basically having to accept himself. So with that, there are a lot of themes in this book that are kind of centered around acceptance and stuff like that. And so because of this huge focus on self-acceptance, and this is a very coming-of-age story of Joel starting to accept himself as well as the people around him, him accepting his own homosexuality, and Truman also had to go through that and accept himself and accept his own homosexuality. He has a big I am me moment where he accepts himself. He's destined to be in other rooms, hearing other voices because he's different. But in this book, it really harps on that message of accepting yourself and being okay being in other rooms and hearing other voices. A lot of the characters in this book are outsiders, and they have to accept themselves as being outsiders and be okay with that. It's basically saying that there are a lot of different types of people and you should be treating them with acceptance and respect instead of ostracizing them or treating them poorly. Another thing that a lot of the characters have in this book is a terror of abandonment. With the feeling of isolation and alienation, a lot of the characters just have a really strong yearning for love and belonging, and all of these characters, I guess, kind of end up being there for each other. Like, they're all on the outside and they're all in other rooms hearing other voices kind of thing. And so when something threatens those things, they react very emotionally and very quickly. Like, because Zoo wants to leave, she wants to go to other places, she wants to live a different life than what she's led already, and the main character Joel like has a really terrible reaction to that, even though she told him straight away that she wanted to leave at some point. One of the main examples of this terror of abandonment and yearning for love is Cousin Randolph. He constantly is asking Joel to accept him, or constantly asking him to tell him that it's gonna be okay and all this stuff. He's just very, like, I guess it would be like needy. One of the things is that I appreciate that it's going for that, but in this book it seemed more kidnappy and Stockholm Syndrome like, and I just thought that that was really weird. I know this is in my prose section, but I appreciate that he was showing that all these characters had a need for love and belonging and acceptance and stuff like that, and it came to light whenever they were afraid that they were going to be alone or be abandoned. But yeah, it came across creepy to me, so I don't think that it really hit that mark well. It just seems more Stockholm Syndrome love than actual love to me. But a yearning for love is something that a lot of these characters feel. And the theme of like self-acceptance as well, I don't think that that was done particularly well. To accept himself, Joel has to basically remove himself from people and like cut himself off from people, and I don't think that that was a good message. I mean, Truman Capote might have felt like he had to do that because of the time period that he was in, but yeah, I don't think you need to cut yourself off from everyone. I don't think that it hit what it was going for, but I appreciate that it tried. And the last couple of things that I'll talk about in this prose section is that I really enjoyed this creepy mansion feel. This mysterious house has been there for so long and has had so many secrets that I really liked getting some of them throughout this story. You learn a little bit more about some of the people that are in the house and what they've been through. And another thing that I really appreciated was that they didn't kill off the gay characters. Like, there's not some tragic ending for the gay characters in this, Cousin Randolph and the main character Joel. Especially for the time period that this was written in, most people that included LGBT plus people in their books ended up killing them off or giving them some hugely tragic ending, and that's not really what happens in here, so I appreciated that. And my last pro that I'm going to talk about is that Truman Capote can really weave a sentence. His writing style is just really amazing. I would say at times it could be a little bit much, but he really knows his way with words, and I was really appreciating that. One neutral that I had is that this is a product of its time, so there are black characters in this, and they're called the N-word in this book, and it's not portrayed as good. This book realistically depicts how poorly black people were treated, but it does have those words in here, so if that's going to bother you, know that going in. And now I'm going to talk about some cons that I had. First up, although I did appreciate Truman Capote's writing style, it's very descriptive. That could really slow down the plot a lot. It was so descriptive. You get descriptions on a ton of stuff, and Truman Capote really keeps that very descriptive writing style because In Cold Blood is also written extremely detailed. And in this novel, I don't think that we needed to have all of that description all of the time. He does a good job of setting up this eerie mansion, and it really gives you that feeling of this mansion being almost like ghostly, but I just wanted more plot. I wanted Joel to get to it and things to start happening because he spends so much time describing everything that is around Joel. So it was like a pro and a con because he really can write, or could write, but it makes his books very slow. Again, I recognize the themes that this book was going for, and I appreciate that it tried to hit those things, but I think that it didn't really hit those marks, at least in my opinion. Again, to accept himself, he has to reject the world, and I don't think that that's like a necessary thing to do, and I don't think that's a healthy thing to do. So I don't think that that's something that you should try to emulate in your own life. You don't need to reject everyone to accept yourself. And if you have a yearning to feel love and belonging, which most people do unless you're a sociopath, you don't need to be so like aggressive about it, and you don't need to kidnap people, basically. This book almost talks about being yourself as sentencing yourself to be yourself. Like it makes it seem like it's a bad thing, and it's not a bad thing. You don't need to sentence yourself to be who you truly are. Again, this might be because of the time period that this was written in, or the mind state of Truman Capote when he was writing it. It might have been necessary for him, but you don't need to do that. Another con that I had was that this book has so much sexual tension. Like, there are weird sexual things happening. At some point, Joel is like almost raped by someone with dwarfism. It was just like, what? What is happening? And again, this like weird attachment of cousin Randolph to Joel was weird. So it was just weird. There's a lot of sexual tensions in this book, and the kid is only like 13 or something like that. And the last con that I had is that the ending of this book is so rushed. It was like he had spent so much time writing everything, and then he just wanted to be done with it and skipped writing an ending. The ending is super choppy, and you don't really know exactly what's happening, and then it's over. It's like, that was not a very satisfying ending. But I do think that the ending was very, very rushed, and because of that, I don't think that it is a very satisfying ending. It just kind of like ends. Such a limp ending that, I don't know, I didn't love the ending. So in the end, I really did appreciate this novel. I had a good time learning about this mansion and these characters and their secrets. I appreciate that this is such a good look into Truman Capote's mindset as a young adult, and it is semi-autobiographical, so there are a lot of similarities between Truman Capote and Joel in this, so it was a good look into what Truman Capote was like, or how he viewed himself as a child. And I did appreciate exploring those themes that I've talked about throughout this video, but in the end, I didn't really love this reading experience very much, and so in the end, I ended up giving this book like 2.5 stars, 3 stars maybe if I'm being nice. And obviously that is a completely personal rating, and you can absolutely love this book, but for me, I didn't really love it all that much. I definitely liked In Cold Blood a lot better than Other Voices, Other Rooms. But I will be continuing my Truman Capote reading, and I think that the next book that I'm going to read by him is going to be Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is the other book that's included in this modern library edition. So that'll be the next review for Truman Capote that I come out with. So that's going to be my review on Other Voices, Other Rooms by Truman Capote. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up, and comment down below if you've read Other Voices, Other Rooms. How did you feel about it? If you'd like to see a review for any of his other books, let me know that as well, and I can bump those up on the priority list. Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.